The bathroom of your dreams is only a phone call away with BCI Bath and Shower. We can make your ordinary bath and shower extraordinary. This is not a cookie-cutter design. This is a complete custom build that will fit your every need. It's never been easier or more affordable than right now to get the bathroom of your dreams. We have the best monthly programs in the industry with payments as low as $99 per month or no payments, no interest for 18 months with approved credit. The hardest part of your new bathroom is gutting and building the tub and shower. If your bathing area is old, there could be damage behind the walls and possible mold and mildew, which can be a serious safety issue. At BCI, we don't cover a problem, we fix it. Call now to get a never clean glass treated door with a no-track system at half off for the first 50 callers. Factory trained, certified installers made in the USA and discounts for seniors and military. Call 800-755-0466. That's 800-755-0466.
Welcome to the Turnpike Sports Spotlight. Dave Weishuttle with you. Well, it's tax time again, and if you did well at your favorite casino, poker room, or sportsbook, you may owe the government some taxes. Taxes are a complicated subject that I know a lot of gamblers out there have questions about, and luckily we have a guest that is going to clear a lot of things up. He is accountant Miklos Ringbauer, who is founder of the accounting firm MiklosCPA out of Los Angeles, and he is on the line with us right now. Miklos, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Dave, for having me this morning.
I got to tell you, I think there's going to be a lot of people listening right now who have a pen and paper are going to take down a lot of notes because of the information you're going to give. But, you know, before we get into specifics, what is the overall concept of taxes and gamblings? I mean, what should people keep in mind when it comes to their gambling and what it means for their taxes? Because I can tell you most of the time people aren't even thinking taxes when they're going to a casino or logging into a sports book. What should people keep in the back of their mind when they're doing these activities throughout the year?
Welcome to the U.S. tax world, where all your income is taxable. Whether it's domestic or foreign betting, you are owed taxes on it if you win. Mm-hmm. That's the basis of the U.S. taxation when it comes to gambling matters. So if you win, Uncle Sam will take a bite.
Okay. Now, whenever we're talking taxes, I guess there has to be a differentiation of whether you're a recreational gambler or you're a professional gambler. What is the difference between the two, and what does it mean regarding taxes?
So there is a very big distinction between a casual gambler versus a professional gambler. Mm-hmm. The best way to align it is a professional gambler is doing this for a business.
Okay.
So think about it. You as a radio host, that is your day-to-day job on it. Me as an accountant, that is my day-to-day job. So if somebody is a professional gambler, that means they are performing the gambling as a profession. Mm-hmm. I know there are some people out there who don't agree with that, but that is just the case. They are gamblers. That's their profession. There's clear case laws and rulings on it, who is a gambler and who is not. And so I would love to address the first one, which is the casual gambler. Okay. So if I go to Vegas and have some fun and just play some bets, since we are very close to Vegas, out of Los Angeles side, that is a casual gambling, fairly straightforward. If I win, I report it as an income, whether I got a tax document from the casinos or from an online betting platform while I'm walking through the casinos, even, and I record it as an income. And then if I had any associated expenses, I can deduct it up until the level of income. But a very big difference is, for the casual gambler, is the income is reported on your 1040 page 1 as your part of your other income categories.
Okay.
Depending on the amount of winning, you will get a W-2G. It's a tax form that casinos, racetracks, and other gambling facilities must issue if the taxpayer reached a certain dollar level of earnings or winnings out of that facility. And then the associated expenses will be reported under your itemized deduction under Schedule A. Mm-hmm. And you were able to list out, so if the taxpayer wins $1,000 and they bet throughout the whole year $1,000 online or in person, they will be able to record both of those activities. The bad news, though, for a casual gambler is that if you do not itemize as a taxpayer, you do not have the ability to take that deduction.
Okay.
So that hurts.
Okay. Yeah.
However, there are very important rules following it, that to make sure that you have proper documents and records to maintain.
Mm-hmm.
If you have any losses, so you can prove, should there be an audit, to record what your betting amounts were, what the associated costs were.
Okay.
When it comes to that, essentially it's what your wage that you bet, what your winning is straightforward for a casual gambler. The beauty kicks in when it is a professional gambler.
Okay.
And that is a trade or business. So that a professional gambler will treat it as just like any other business.
All right.
Record all of their income, pick up all of their associated expenses, and they can set them against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And the result is that if they have a positive year, they pay taxes on it. If they end up losing or generating more losses than what they won throughout the year, they will no longer have the ability to deduct the net operating losses out of the business activity, but at least they will have a zero taxable income as a professional gambler.
I'm curious. Do you have to declare yourself as a professional gambler on the tax documents? And is there any benefit or advantages of being declared a professional gambler?
So there are very clear rules associated with who is a gambler, and there are even audit techniques by the IRS.
Okay.
They are looking at somebody who is gambling. And those audit techniques are publicly available. So if any of your listeners looking to switch careers and become a professional gambler right away, it's advisable to look at some of the tax court rulings as well as some of those publicly available documents for the state or federal agencies, how they have treated some activities and what was the reason why somebody was accepted as a professional gambler or was rejected the status of a professional gambler.
I'm glad you mentioned that because it's in the state I'm sitting in New Jersey, when it comes to being a professional recreational gambler, sometimes those lines are blurred because people in New Jersey, there's online casinos, there's online poker, there's online sports betting, online lottery, whatever. And does it matter how much time you spend gambling, or does it matter how much you win gambling? And I would assume that's one of the IRS tests that they use of whether someone is a professional gambler or a recreational gambler. Does time spent gambling matter to the IRS, or does the amount won it matters to the IRS?
So the time spent and the intent of the taxpayer and the activities that they carry throughout the whole year will determine the status. So if I am focused on playing poker games and or other type of activities as a taxpayer, and I do not carry any other type of jobs, then I am performing as a business of a gambler. And I have all the benefits of taking the deductions and the rules that are allowed to make sure that I can account for the income and expenses associated with my trade or business. So if I'm carrying it out as a trade or business, there's no issue with that. The best way to say it, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, then it's a duck. As a professional gambler, if you follow the IRS rules and the instructions, then they will have the ability to classify you as a professional gambler. As a taxpayer, we will declare it on your tax return that you are a gambler. So it's not a document that we submit to the government and say, as of today, I'm going to be a gambler, professional gambler. It will be part of your tax return when the taxpayer prepares the Schedule C form, which is the self-employed activity under the gambling.
Okay. I'm curious, is there a rule of thumb about how gambling income is computed? Is there some equation that people should keep in mind? Is it like, I win $10,000? Is it a certain percentage of that? Or throughout the year when people are gambling and winning and losing, is there a percentage or a kind of a computation they can use in their head to see how much ballpark taxes they owe?
Depends on whether the taxpayer is a gambler, professional gambler, or an amateur gambler.
Okay.
So in the magic of taxation, the answer is always it depends.
Okay.
On the facts and circumstances. So if the taxpayer is a professional gambler, when they sum up their income, associated expenses, whatever is the net income, results in a taxable income plus Social Security and Medicare self-employment taxes that the taxpayer will be subject to, and who should be making quarterly estimated payments based on the quarterly activities that they do. If it is a casual gambler, then should their other type of incomes and the associated withholdings, for example, from their regular day-to-day jobs or other items they have withholdings, most of that may end up covering, so they would not need to worry less in the process.
One question I get from a lot of people who go to casinos is if they win at a casino, what kind of forms or paperwork should you expect from the casino? I know you mentioned it before, but I think that's a big question that a lot of people have. If they win a big jackpot at the slots, do the casino present them with forms and tax forms that they have to fill out at the casino?
Yes.
Okay.
If depending on the type of wager and depending on the amount of winning, the casino will ask you to fill out some tax forms, and they will issue at year end or at the beginning of the next year a form called W-2G.
Okay.
It is similar to like a regular W-2 if we are employed by a company, but that will list what the gambling date, the winning date was, what type of winning it was, even what window the cashier was paid out. There's a lot of details behind it that goes on to the W-2G that the taxpayer will receive. However, not every winning will result in a W-2G issuance because it depends on the dollar amount, and it also depends on whether the taxpayer gambled at the same casino throughout the whole year or they were only gambling once every other day at another facility, another establishment.
That's a great point. And sticking with that idea, what tax forms or other forms a gambler should be aware of, even if the casino or the operator does not provide them with the forms available? What are the forms that a gambler has to know about, even if they're not given by the casino?
They should maintain a proper record business. So if it is a professional gambler, they should maintain a proper business records, even considering setting up a separate checking account for all of these activities. So all the expenses paid by that, all the incomes are deposited into that account. That would be a wonderful way of segregating their activities and showing that they may end up being a professional gambler versus a casual one. They would also be able to get, if they have the players cards or any other type of loyalty cards that the online or the physical casinos issue, they can download that annual transaction statement. Would be additional support for them and could benefit.
You predicted my next question, and I think it's so important. And what is important is good record keeping, especially if you want to claim any deductions in your taxes. I tell everyone to keep receipts whenever they go to a casino, whether it be room, food, toll booths. I tell people to keep track of their mileage to and from the casino, and also keep receipts even for their parking. I just usually tell them get receipts for everything and let your accountant sort them out. So, but when we talk about good record keeping, what should gamblers know about? What is important to keep in mind when it comes to record keeping when you're gambling?
There is no standard form. That's the strangest and the scariest thing for most gamblers. Depending on where and who you are placing your bets, they issue different type of documents, and that can be very confusing. So the taxpayer, whether it's a casual gambler or whether it's a professional gambler, should understand the documents that they receive, or should understand when they sign up online what and where they can find records from that provider, whether it's an online betting company or it's a physical in-place. Unique part to it is, as you just said, let your accountant figure out what the expenses that you can deduct if you meet the professional gambler activity, and they will able to guide you through. But the best thing they can do, all your listeners, is have a good tax advice before they start gambling, so they can plan and they can start maintaining the records, because that is the biggest challenge we tax professionals run into, that when we are talking to clients, after a year passed, either records are they cannot find it, or they have not done a good enough record maintenance or registration to ensure that their deductions or their winnings are properly captured. And the bad news is, even if you win $10 is a taxable income, or whether you win $100 million.
Wow. Well, one other question I get from, especially a lot of poker players, they ask me, does it matter what kind of games you play at the casino and how much taxes you have to pay? I mean, for example, do slot players have to worry about different things when it comes to taxes than poker players? Do the games people play matter on how you file your taxes?
Only the status, whether you are an active professional gambler carrying a trade or business, or you are a casual gambler. A casual gambler, assume that they had net winning for the year after wagering and other associated costs. They will be paying ordinary income tax, whichever tax bracket that they will fall into. So if they have regular wage income, they have brokerage incomes, and all of those sorts of different activities throughout the year, whatever tax bracket they will fall into, anywhere between the 10 to the 37+% range, that will be the federal tax rate that they will be subject to. It's fairly straightforward. When it's subject to self-employment, which is a professional gambler, then the taxpayer will be subject to ordinary income taxes, whichever tax bracket they fall into, and the Social Security and Medicare tax on the net income associated with the activity of a trade or business as a gambler. And that is about 16% or so additional tax, just like any other self-employment activity would be.
One creative question that I've gotten from a lot of gamblers was, hey, can I deduct my losses? I mean, it's great that they're thinking like that, but how do gamblers handle losses when it comes to filing taxes?
So for a professional gambler, it was a very bad year in 2017, the tax law changes. Until that date, they had the ability to deduct net operating losses from the gambling activities. But the 2017 tax law changes that will be still in effect until January 1, 2026. It's anticipated to sunset this side of the provision. Is that when the taxpayer adds up all of their income and losses or expenses associated with their wagering, net result can only be zero. So that's the best tax solution that they will end up having. And no losses can be accumulated or set against other income that they generate. Unfortunately, that's the tax law change result. Casual gambler, Schedule 8 itemized deduction. And as of the 2017 tax law changes, again, a lot of people stopped itemizing, so they may not be able to take those deductions.
You know, you mentioned this before, and it's a great point that you brought up, is a casino's rewards programs. Usually for people who play at a casinos a lot, they're usually involved in a casino's rewards programs. I mean, they get comped room or food. They get bonuses. They get gifts from casinos. I mean, I went to Atlantic City last week, and it seems like every casino was giving away a car. I mean, how are those factors figured into a person's tax filings?
Becomes, again, a dependent item, whether they are a professional gambler or a casual gambler. So if it's a casual gambler, those comps and other items may become a taxable income, depending on how they received it and for what they received. So if they won the car, that is just like winning a jackpot or winning at the poker table.
Okay.
That is going to be part of their ordinary income. If it is a professional gambler, some of those items can be picked up, like the transportation, lodging, and some of the items can be set against and recorded as certain expenses and income items.
Now, here in New Jersey and a bunch of other states around the country, people play online, whether it's sports betting, online casinos, online poker, fantasy sports, lottery, what have you. Some people just play online. Does that create a particular tax issue that they should know about, or is it pretty much the same as if you drove to a casino and played?
So depending on which state you are. Mm-hmm. So if you are in a state that gambling and online gambling is legal, there's no difference. Mm-hmm. If it is in a state that you are living and a resident and you're trying to gamble from that state, then you may have some other issues to be worried about.
Okay. I mentioned sports betting, and when we were talking, off air before you came on, and, this is a great time for you to be on because the Super Bowl just happened and a lot of betting happened and a lot of betting around the country. I'm curious, has tax filings by gamblers increased because of the rise of sports betting? Are you seeing a lot more sports betting issues with regard to taxes?
Yes. Mm-hmm. It is an amazing opportunity, and it has been an incredible growth for the online gambling by having taxpayer access to these type of online platforms. However, where we run into the challenge is when taxpayers come in and they are trying to classify to be a professional gambler.
Okay.
And that is when we go through the step-by-step item whether that taxpayer would qualify to be a professional gambler based on their activities and whether they and how they carried out that activity for the whole year. So if you are a gambler, you want to find a CPA that specializes in this industry because most CPAs do not work with gamblers. Yeah. And if you are a professional gambler, you don't want to gamble with your money.
Well, you raise a great question about being a professional bettor, and I'm just curious. Is there a type of business entity that is more beneficial for them regarding taxes? I mean, for example, if a pro gambler, would they be better off filing as an individual, or should they think about forming a corporation or an LLC, if that's even possible? Is there a business entity that would benefit the professional gambler more than another for tax purposes?
We have seen most of the professional gamblers to be self-employed individual, unincorporated. As the individual grows later on, if they end up hiring employees and some other type of, as their operation end up growing, that may benefit in changing structures. But most of the professional gamblers are self-employed that we come across, and they are not dealing with other entity issues or liability issues when they would need to be incorporated.
Now, we mentioned the expanding sports betting market, and certainly other states are expanding their gambling industry. Some have bills for online casinos and iGaming. I'm curious, how is the accounting world changing, and what do you see on the horizon with regard to taxation and gambling? I mean, do you see changes down the road to the rules and regulations that a gambler would have to deal with?
Regulation-wise, we'll see what 2026 brings, whether the sunset of the 2017 tax law changes will revert back to pre-17 activity, where a professional gambler will be able to do the net operating loss deduction and other items. Most people believe taxes are stable and it doesn't change, but the last several years have shown us that taxes are nothing but stable, and there are incredible lot of legislations that are happening and may end up changing what taxpayers will be subject to or get relief from. One of the challenge that most gamblers end up facing is there is no online platform where it's aggregating all of their activities and summarize all of their different type of wagering, bettings, and so forth, where they could generate an annual report, all the winnings, all the associated expenses, that flows through on the wagering side. That would help significantly most gamblers and tax preparers.
Okay. That brings me to my next question. What has been the biggest question that gamblers ask you as an accountant with regard to taxes? I mean, taxes can be a complicated issue. What have been some of the big questions that gamblers have asked you with regard to their taxes?
The professional gamblers are incredibly trying to become professional gamblers. And we walk them through, in order to classify to be a professional gambler, these are the steps you need to do. How you maintain records. Do you have a full-time job and this is just a side activity that you end up doing as a professional, as a gambler? And how do you maintain your records? What amount of time and dedication the taxpayer has to the gambling? The online platform allowed most taxpayers to be essentially connected 24/7 for any of their activities when it comes to gambling. So it made it very easy and accessible. That makes the classification a lot harder, because in the old days, somebody to be classified a professional gambler, they attended a poker tournament in person. They were flying different parts of the country or internationally. That was very easy to say that I'm a professional gambler. But nowadays on the online one, how do you track your time as a taxpayer on online activities? And how are you maintaining your records is the most challenging piece that we are helping clients to recognize in case of an audit, how to defend the stand that you take on your tax return.
Well, tax time is here. Other than calling you immediately, what should gamblers be doing right now to prepare their tax filings? I mean, we never want to wait to the last minute. So what information should they be gathering right now in order to file their taxes properly?
Going through your entire 2023 records.
Okay.
For all winnings, all bettings, and all associated expenses, so that when you present it to your tax preparer or when you are doing your own tax returns, every data is available. So you do not pay taxes on income that you could set expenses against for 2023 purposes. But the magic is on your 2024 activities, so that as a taxpayer, as a gambler, you make the right changes and record keeping and start maintaining a log of all the activities. So that way, when next year comes around, it will be a breeze.
Miklos, we're running out of time, but if people want to reach out to you, how do they get in contact with you? And do you have a website for your accounting firm, MiklosCPA?
Yes, we do. Thank you so much for asking. We have a website called MiklosCPA.com. And of course, we have a local phone number that anybody are welcome to reach us.
Miklos Ringbauer, founder of MiklosCPA, thank you so much for coming on and talking about taxes and what gamblers have to do in order to file properly. I always say that people should consult a professional when it comes to their taxes, especially when it comes to income derived from gambling. Thank you so much for coming on and giving us some incredibly useful information.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate your time. Have a good rest of the day.
That'll do it for us this week. We'll see you next time on the Turnpike.